All right, here we are again with another book of Revelation made easy, and this is going to be the most easy making message of all the book of Revelation. This is the book of Revelation made easy, okay? It's a seven seal book we're dealing with, and in that sealed book are the future events that are going to take place on the earth over a 7 year period. God's blueprint for end time events. Revelation 8:1. When he'd opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. And I saw the seven angels which stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. The seven trumpets follow the seven seals. But in reality, the seven seals takes us through the tribulation all the way to the second coming. And then the seven trumpets take us all the way to the second coming. They merge one over the top of the other. And then the seven thunders, and finally the seven vials. Now, the seven vials will be the latter half of the tribulation, and only the seven seals start right at the front of it. But the seals, the trumpets, the thunders, and the vials all end with the second coming of Christ. And another angel stood at the altar having golden censer, and is going to offer incense before the throne. And the smoke of the incense came up with the prayers of the saints. The angel took the censer, filled it off the altar. The seven angels, which had the seven trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. So now we're moving to the seven trumpets. So the seventh seal is opened, and it contains the seven trumpets. Notice here on our chart, on my painting, this is a painting I did years ago, the book of Revelation. We have here seven seals and then an interval. That's actually where the second coming takes place. And then you have the silence and the golden censer opened, and then we have seven trumpets. The seven trumpets fit inside of the seventh seal. And then we have the second coming again occurring after the sixth trumpet, and then we have the final judgments in the seventh trumpet, and then the seven thunders occur there, which are not revealed to us, and then the seven vials occur within the seventh trumpet, the seventh seal. We're going to show you that in a clearer way where you can understand it. We'll show you the scripture, the text on it. So the seventh seal contains the seven trumpets, seven thunders, and seven vials. If you try to read the book of Revelation chronologically, you find the same events, the earthquake taking place several times. Why? Because he's covering the same information. Just as when you read the Gospels, you find the same parable occurring several times, because each Gospel covers the entire 3.5 years of Christ's life. So the tribulation, the book of Revelation covers the tribulation 4 times. So the seventh seal contains seven trumpets, seven thunders, and seven vials. Let me show you something interesting here. This is my Bible program, and you'll notice, let me enlarge that where you can see it a little better. We'll put that up there like that. Okay, there it is. Starting in Revelation chapter 1, verse 4, you got seven churches, seven churches, seven churches, churches, 19 times all the way up to the end of chapter 3, you have the word churches. Churches does not appear again until 22:16, the last book where the church is in heaven. Why isn't the church appearing from chapter 4:1 all the way through chapter 21? Why? Because the church is not there, through chapter 19 in particular. So 4 through 19, the church is already in heaven. When it does appear, it's in heaven. But on the earth, all you have are the nations and the nation of Israel. So 4 is interesting, this 4 appearance of the tribulation 4 times. 4 is the number of structural or created wholeness. Get my series on numbers. It's long and cumbersome. You don't have to watch an entire hour of one number, but you can get the gist of it. 4 is a number of structural, it's free on YouTube, structural or created wholeness. 4 is about the parts, it's not about the whole. It is about the whole that is constructed of the 4 parts. God creates it or ordains it, or In some cases, man makes it, like man makes a house. God constructed nature. We have in the book of Revelation 4 winds, 4 corners of the earth. In the Bible, there are 4 seasons. Revelation is a 4 square city. There are 4 kingdoms, as defined by the ancient Greeks: mineral, plant, animal, human, 4 quantum numbers in atomic structure. Angels are prominent in 4s as well. In the book of Revelation, you have 4 spirits of the heavens, 4 winged cherubim, 4 angels bound in the river Euphrates, 4 beasts before the throne. And in the Bible, there are 4 accounts of Moses and Israel journeying to the promised land: Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, just as there are 4 Gospels. 4 kingdoms predicted by Daniel, 4 horse riders of the apocalypse in chapters 4 and 5. 4 beasts around the throne, 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth holding the 4 winds, 4 horns of the golden altar in the book of Revelation, a 4 square city, and as we said, 4 gospel accounts. There's 4 rounds of judgments in the book of Revelation. The seals is the first, ending with the second coming. Trumpets is the second, ending with the second coming. Now, the thunders has within that context the Antichrist. So the thunders are not revealed except the Antichrist. And that's the part he keeps a secret. So the details about the Antichrist are not revealed. And they're pretty bad. Too bad for us to know what's going to happen. So he keeps that a secret. But at the end of that time, you have the second coming, and then you have the vials, and the end of that is the second coming. So 4 counts of the tribulation in Revelation, and by the way, there are 4 times that the second coming takes place, or the rapture, starting in chapter 4, verse 1, and going on through chapter 19. Let's set that aside, and set this aside, and go back to our graph. Okay, so this is where the rapture takes place. This is where they go to heaven. Here's the first seal, which occurs after 4:1, and second, third, fourth, fifth, the 6th seal, and then we have in 6:14 the second coming. It's tying up the tribulation in the first 6 seals. That's the story of the tribulation. But then there's another chapter, just as you write a novel and you go through a time period, and then you drop back and you tell the story again from the perspective of a different person. And then you do it a 3rd time and you do it a 4th time. So you're giving a well-rounded perspective of this historical events from the perspective of 4 different people, just like the Gospels do. On the 7th seal, you then have the first trumpet, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and that's called the first woe. That is in the last few months, maybe few weeks even, of the tribulation. First woe. And then the 6th trumpet, and that's called the second woe. Why does he call it a woe? Because whoa, man, it's going to be tough, going to be rough. And then we have, again, in chapter 11, verse 12, the end of the tribulation, or is the second coming, that is. And then that's followed by the thunders. Now, the thunders don't just follow this, they coincide with it. They're in sync with it, laid one over the top of the other. But storyline, he writes about the thunders then after that second woe. And then you have the 7th trumpet, and out of it comes a 15:5 after the Antichrist. In that interval period comes the end of the tribulation again. So it's kind of an interval there that's between the 7th trumpet and the first vial. And that's called the third woe. Now, what's interesting is that in all 4 cases, Christ comes back before these final judgments. That's why some people have created what's called a pre-wrath rapture, because actually the tribulation Jews do get a rapture pre-wrath. And so I am kind of the mind, I don't know for sure, but I'm kind of the mind, that the second coming occurs weeks before the end of the tribulation. That the saints are in heaven and come back with Christ on white horses to finish off the nations that are battling. So the tribulation saints, we reveal here in the text, are caught up into heaven, and then these final woes take place on the earth. So I tend to think that the second coming is weeks or maybe months before the end of the tribulation. That's why you see it taking place between the sixth and the seventh trumpet, and between the sixth and seventh vial, and sixth and seventh seal. So we go on with our chart. So then under the seventh trumpet, which is the seventh seal, we now have 7 vials. Now your modern commercial versions change that to bowls. That's a Dr. Fauci interpretation. It's not a bowl, it's a vial. What's poured out of it? Plagues, diseases are poured out. When would you go into a laboratory and find a bowl sitting there with diseases and plagues in it? No, it's in vials. So only the King James Bible has an accurate interpretation and translation of that. Okay, when we come to the last vial, we then have the second coming given in the most detail there in chapter 19. Good lengthy passage, so you can read that for yourself. So how do we sum this up? 7 seals covers the whole tribulation. 7 trumpets cover the whole tribulation, at least somewhere into the early beginning to the end. And the 7 vials cover the tribulation somewhere toward the middle or latter couple years and take us to the end. And the 7 thunders, we're not told, except their placement there indicates that there's, just as there were 7 different plagues, there will be 7 different under the thunders. We just don't know what they are. All right? So coming back to our book of Revelation chart, see it again. Here's 7 seals. This interval then has the second coming in it, as pictured by the lightning and the stars falling and so forth down here. And then we have some discussion of the angels casting the censer down on behalf of the 144,000. And then the angels begin to blow the trumpets, and things happen like like a ball of fire comes down to the earth. Sun is blocked out 1/3. Star called wormwood falls into the sea and destroys 1/3 of the life in the sea. And then we have the 2 witnesses and Satan cast out of heaven. And then we have the second coming occurring right here again, the end of the tribulation, and in chapter 11. And then we come down to a discussion of an interval again about the beast and the 144,000, which ends with the second coming again in 14:14, the end of the tribulation. And then we go through it the final time with the 7 vials, and beginning in 16:17, you have the 7th vial and the beginning of the second coming, which 19, 17, 18 culminates the second coming again with lightning present. Lightning, thunders, voices occur each time the second coming takes place. So that will help you understand the book of Revelation when you read it. Now, I'm thinking about painting a picture of the book of Revelation. I don't know if I'll get to it or not, but I'm thinking about it, where I take the seals, trumpets, thunders, and vials and try to place them one over the top of the other, so that instead of being spread out, they're chronological in the actual occurrence of the events. That won't be an easy job, and I don't know if I can do it perfectly accurately or not. If you have any thoughts on that, if you know if anybody's done any work on that, I'd be interested in seeing it. Okay, that's all for today.
Get your own print of Mike's Revelation painting at ngj.org/revelation. Available as a poster or a full-size banner, and includes a copy of Mike's Revelation Handbook Study Guide.